Welcome to the Linehaul Playbook. I'm your host, Emily Blair. Joining me in my virtual studio today is Jeremy Charles with Wave Enterprises. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
I had a suggestion from another contractor asking me to talk about breakdowns. Now, as BC, I know that you have had more than your share of breakdowns. So let's pretend that you just got a call from a driver that they are on the side of the road. What do you do?
First and foremost, make sure that they're safe, in a safe position where they're off the road safe, on the safety lanes, you know, and if they're not in a good position, then the first thing you do is call the police so that they can come out and block or do whatever they need to do to make the situation more safe.
That's a very important tip. Something honestly I hadn't considered because I've never been a driver. So, what kind of situation would make them unsafe? Is it usually just based on the roadway where they happen to be?
Yeah, exactly. Where they
Okay.
happen to be or where they can make it. You know, if you have a steer tire blowout, you're pretty much done where you're at. It could be a place with a guardrail that you can't really get completely off into the on the shoulder, or it could be a place where you could get off on the shoulder. You
Okay.
know, it's situational.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like everything has to be like a choose your own adventure in this situation. It's got to be just kind of a game of experience to figure out what's best. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, location within the United States is key there too. And some places have wider shoulders, some places have more guardrails, and then it just depends on how you do the repairs, how everything depends on location, how you get your drivers home if it's a repair that has to take a while.
That is a lot of factors. So let's go back to our driver is safe. What's the next step for you?
Determine what actually happened, whether it's a problem with the trailers or whether it's a problem with the tractor. And then once you figure that out, then you know the next step is if it's a problem with the trailers, you're going to call FleetNet. And they have a bevy of questions. They'll ask you where you're at, what mile marker, what happened, what the trailer numbers are, where you got the trailers, where the destination is, and then what domicile you're domiciled out of.
Okay. And if it's a problem with the truck?
We call REL because we have REL trucks, except for one truck in our fleet is a rider lease,
Hmm.
and that case we would call rider.
Okay, got it. So everything that you've got is going to be more of a maintenance covered type of situation. So you're contacting the provider. Now, I heard an interesting thing, and I don't understand this, so you'll have to explain it to me. So I was told that since FleetNet is the provider for the trailers, that they contacted FedEx, but only if they also took care of your truck. Does that make sense?
Never rely on FleetNet to tell FedEx anything. FedEx is the second call, and you always you call your domicile. You let them know what happened, where it happened at, and that you will call them back with an estimate of the time that it's going to take to solve things. And then they get the ball rolling. If it's a major thing, they will get the ball rolling on their end to get coverage for the trailers that you have, because if it's something major with the tractor, they will send another tractor out to get those trailers to take them to their destination.
Okay, very good. Is there a general time frame when they will allow you time to fix the issue and get back on the road? What is the time cutoff where they're usually going to send out a rescue for the trailers?
Depends on the when the trailers are due and the time period. Like if it's a bump, it's you have to know pretty quickly what you're going to do. If it's going to be an hour or two, they'll usually allow you to be an hour or two late in that situation. But if it's going to be more than that, they like to send somebody. Or if you can get it fixed within a reasonable amount of time, 4 or 5 hours, and it's not going to be late at its final destination, you just run through to the final destination once you
Okay.
get back on the road.
How often would you say is it a situation where you can get them right back on the road within a matter of a few hours? They've checked the truck pre-trip. Usually you're going to be aware of any big situations. Is that true to say or not really?
Yeah, it's true. I teach pre-trip, 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 and we've only really had one situation that it was where a radiator had actually blowed,
Hmm.
and we had to get rescued, and couldn't couldn't go on. Our day was done.
Okay. So in general, your driver is going to stay there with the truck while the repair happens. Is that true?
We've had some minor stuff go on. Radiator clamp hoses blow off. We've had some air clamps on the turbo sides blow off. Tires, you have tires, happens all the time. Truck and trailers. We've had springs break on the trailers where it's holds the airlines up in the middle of the trailer, and it's broke and drug holes into the lines. But generally, yeah, the drivers stay with the truck and the trailers.
Okay, very good. And do you pay your driver cents per mile?
Yeah.
Does that become an issue since they're not able to keep moving?
If it is a very long period of time, then we have compensated a little bit.
Okay, that probably helps. So, first call is going to be either to FleetNet or the maintenance on your tractor.
Hmm.
Second call goes to FedEx.
Hmm.
And then from there, is it just a situation of you're waiting to hear back from either FleetNet or the tractor mechanic?
Yeah, you're waiting to hear back from FleetNet on whether they found somebody, and they usually get an ETA of when they'll be there, and REL does the same. They find a tow truck or a roadside mechanic or whatever, and they usually get an ETA of when they'll be able to make it to you, and then they'll show up. Most of the time, they show up and don't necessarily have the parts a lot of the time, so they gotta evaluate the situation and then go get parts and then come back, and it depends really on what it is, but
Yeah. So, rarely an easy fix, even if it only
no,
takes a few hours.
you're most of the time, sadly, you're looking at least 4 hours, unless you can. I teach all my people to, if it's tire related and it's not a steer tire, I usually we try to limp it to the nearest truck stop that has a tire center, because it's just so much easier and quicker to do if we're already there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of the situations has worked out pretty reasonable on that, where we've been able to limp to a truck stop.
That's good. Yeah. And that's got to be a lot safer for the driver than being on the side of the road as well.
Yeah, and it makes the fleet net, if it's a trailer tire or a dolly tire, it makes fleet net a lot easier, because you just tell them exactly where you're at, and they call and approve whatever. And
And as the BC, is it your responsibility to maintain contact between all parties, or do you have anybody else that helps you with that?
uh, it's the drivers usually are the ones that contact like FleetNet and REL, because I can't. It's hard for me to determine exactly where they're at, like what mile marker and what happened, and but I mean I have if I need to.
Oh,
Because sometimes it gets a little tense, and the drivers are more than likely agitated, and it's just easier for somebody outside of the situation to do some of it sometimes.
yeah, I can imagine that that would be a very frustrating scenario for most drivers to be in. Is it something that you do any practice with? Like, do you talk through the process with your drivers?
Yeah, I've talked through it a little bit. We've done some informational videos about, being safe when stuff happens and where you can park safely and where not to, that
Yeah.
stuff. We do
Yeah.
training like that.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate that information. Do you have any other tips that you'd be willing to share with us about anything that you do you think differently from others in a breakdown scenario that might be helpful?
If it's an overnight thing, uh, we've paid for hotels before. You know, um, uh, we've actually went and picked drivers up if it's close enough to the home base to do that. We've took drivers to pick trucks up from repairs to do that. We've got Ubers. We've rented cars in a couple situations. Um, the the only good thing about the rider lease is that they do truck replacements
Hmm.
in that situation, so that they would just bring a spare tractor out, and we have a California team run that truck is on that run for that reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Jeremy, I sure appreciate you taking time to give us your input today.
No
Thank you
problem.
very much, and I hope you have an amazing day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.